lovelies, and welcome to this week's video. This week we'll be talking about empaths and boundaries, more on why it's important for us to have boundaries and why it's necessary. So this is another edition of the Empaths and Relationships. So empaths, like I've said in the previous videos, we tend to attract people that may not be completely stable, tend to get into toxic relationships. We tend to attract narcissists even. People that basically may need us or need caretakers, whether they believe it or not. And yeah. So that's part of the reason why we need to have boundaries, but it's not just what we attract and what we're drawn to and what we get in relationships with, but also who we are. Because a lot of the time we forget about our own needs and put the other person's needs above our own. Now, some of the things that are the dark side of being an empath in a relationship include we can come off needy, even though that may not actually be the case. It's just that we understand love and emotions on a different level than somebody else, or we know how we feel quicker than somebody else, or just because we sense things stronger and we, whatever it may be. It's just how it is, and that might scare people away. We come off moody and have mood swings. We might come off distant and then clingy the next minute. And you may be thinking, well, so do my partners. And that may be because you date narcissists or you date people who are bipolar maybe or have other mental illnesses. But ours, it's back to the root of why this happens. And those are all signs of an empath that has not created boundaries and is not healthy fully and is not fully in touch with their empath side and what the empath side needs, and is still putting that other person first. The mood swings come from a couple different things. One, not creating boundaries, so we're not creating that space that is needed, that we so heavily need. Second, it's from there being a conflict between our intuition and our gut. There's also a conflict maybe between what others around us want and feel and think, but yet we constantly are giving these people chances and care about them, etc., etc. There's so many reasons why an empath who has not created boundaries either within the relationship or with family members or friends who are not part of the relationship may be moody. Another thing, the neediness. There needs to be boundaries set there because sometimes the neediness also can come out of an insecure empath who is reading the other person's energy wrong. And it's very common for empaths to be able to just know everyone's emotions and figure out things about other people. But when it's our own interpersonal relationships, like an actual, like, romantic relationship, we can sometimes allow anxiety or cloudiness to override the actual feeling and reason why the significant other may be feeling the way they are. So then we get insecure and cling to them because we think that we did something wrong, even though it may have nothing to do with us. We just assume it does because we can feel and take on their things, which also goes back to the moodiness. If you're with somebody that has a mood disorder, is moody themselves, you yourself start to get moody as well. So those are some of the dark sides of being an empath in a relationship and why we need these boundaries. And I'm going to admit, this is an extremely hard thing for me myself. And I think as anybody who, whether you're an empath or just somebody that's highly sensitive, or just anyone in general who has problems creating boundaries, people with anxiety, trauma, bad history, it's really hard to create boundaries because we just want to give so much, and we feel like if we show somebody how much we love them, if we over give them love and all this kind of stuff, that that shows how much we want to be with them and love them. But we have to also take care of ourselves, and we always tend to lose ourselves in romantic relationship and friends relationships. So that's kind of the reason why we need set boundaries. So again, one of the reasons that may cause us to have this moodiness is not setting boundaries and being open with our partner about what we need. And a lot of that stems towards or comes from insecurities, or just the fact that we want to be with them. So empaths are very odd creatures in the fact that when we're in love and we want to be with somebody, we want to be with them all the time. But at the same time, as empaths, we naturally need alone time or time to recuperate. And we don't always necessarily tell that to our partner, that we need that time alone, and instead demand to be with them more often than either partner may want, especially in the beginning, and come off needy. And that makes us even more needy because inside we don't really want to. I mean, we want to, but like we need our space, and then we get moody, and then whatever happens. So, the first boundary that we as empaths need to create is space. Now, if you're already living or planning on living with your partner, have designated areas where each of you can go when the other needs space. An empath needs time to recuperate, whether it be from just normal everyday to day social interaction, or even just spending a whole day with your partner. So if you're, for example, living in a studio with a not fully stable partner, you're both probably going to get to an extreme because you're not having that healthy space. So having like a designated room, or going for even a walk, and actually allowing the other to do so without it getting insecure. And I think that that's a problem for both the empath and the other person, especially for the empath, because we feel all the emotions that are going on with ourselves as well as the other partner. So if there's an argument or whatever, we can't really think. That's the only time that we may not be able to think logically, because there's so much emotion going on in the room. But as empaths, we need to set the boundaries that we do need alone time and space, and we need to set it with our own selves. Like, most importantly, we need to convince ourselves that the best thing for us is to have that time alone. And that's really hard for us to grasp because we are so excited and so in love, and we so want to be with them all the time. But we have to create some type of space, whether it be in another room just reading or watching a movie and them doing their thing. We might get anxious, we might get paranoid, whatever, but we need that time. And I think a lot of us ignore that and sometimes just give in to that needy side instead of we need to create boundaries, because empaths are the hardest at creating boundaries. We suck at it creating boundaries and sticking to them. We might create them, but we suck at sticking to them. Another reason we need to create boundaries is because we can get walked over very easily. And I think we've all been there before, and we can also become the other to the other side as well. Empaths are not purely innocent and great. Like, I'm not saying we are always the victim or the survivor. Not in any means. We feel too much. That does not necessarily mean that it's always a good thing. So boundaries need to be set. No matter how hard it is for us to actually set those boundaries, we have to find a way to say them. And we might come off as passive aggressive, and we need to really think about what we say first, and that's another problem we have. So when we are creating our boundaries, we need to really, really think about what it is we're saying. Don't make extreme boundaries right away. I think sometimes empaths, when we start to think, oh, we need to create boundaries, we do some really extreme boundary making that we may not be able to stick to, and then that allows for our partner to think that they can get away with things because we give in. So maybe just start with that. I need space, this amount of space each day, whether it be just 5 minutes or 20 minutes, and that will stop the moodiness more likely. And we tend to give in to what they want or what we think would make them happy, more so than making ourselves happy or even our friends. We tend to put our relationships on a pedestal and ignore the rest of the world, and that's something that we need to create a boundary on too, with ourselves. A lot of these boundaries don't necessarily, the first boundaries we make are not with our partner necessarily, but with ourselves. So we need to make that boundary that if there's an event going on for a friend that you may not have seen in a long time, and there's also something going on with your partner, and you always tend to put your partner first, maybe this time, no matter what your partner says, go and do this thing with your friend, because otherwise it leaves us moody and in a negative place, and that can cause for more problems and negativity in the long run, especially because again, with what we tend to attract. So those are just a couple reasons why we need to create boundaries and why boundaries are important in empath relationships. I'll talk more on the subject because there's a lot to do with empaths and boundaries. This is just a quick thing because otherwise I would talk for 40 minutes. So this is more of how to get rid of the moodiness, negativity, neediness type thing, and space is key. So that's all I have for you today. Please subscribe, check out all my links below, my Etsy page, my Facebook page, my Instagram, sign up for my newsletter, and watch for my upcoming videos, and my new fun channel is just around the corner, coming out soon. Love you all, and have a fabulous next couple days.